Welcome back to the Backwards History Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will, here with my co-host, Kevin. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
It doesn't mean what you think it does.
It means whatever I say it means.
Or does it mean whatever I say it means?
Or does it mean whatever we feel like it means?
So many questions.
So many questions. But before we get into the answer to those questions, I want you to go do those social media thingy things. Go like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know. Let your family know.
Let your enemies know.
Let your enemies know. We might make them mad for you.
Yeah.
Right. But, and don't forget to go check out Mike Ramsey music for the intro and outro music and some of his other great stuff. All that being said, this is officially the first episode after the 1 year mark of the Backwards History Podcast. We want to thank every one of our listeners, foreign and domestic, for that.
And your participation in our anniversary contest.
Yes. Thank you. But, yeah, we have been on social media.
Both of us.
Like most everybody right now. Seeing a bunch of crazy stuff. Lots of accusations, lots of talk about different things, and
historical misconceptions.
Some present day misconceptions, and all kinds of stuff. And we noticed there's a lot of, I'll just come out and say insanity going around about the use of different symbols and what they mean. But do they mean what you think they mean just because you feel that they mean a certain thing? And you might be thinking I'm talking about specific ones. Probably not talking about the ones you think I'm talking about. See how all this thinking's coming into play?
It can give you a headache.
But I think it's time for me to bow out and let Kevin have this.
Thank you, Will. Yes, as many of us find ourselves a lot of free time, we tend to take to social media for all manner of things. For me personally, it's mostly entertainment to see what craziness the world has to offer me that day. And I see people, it's no secret that people like to argue on social media.
Guilty.
It's kind of like the new American pastime.
Guilty.
But I've also, to be fair, I've seen some decent debates on social media, but few and far between. People, giving their opinions and only being able to support it with, well, that's how I feel. Just going to be very blunt here. I don't really care how you feel. Your feelings hold no sway.
Give me some facts, Bubba.
Give me some facts. Give me some logic. Because you may feel one way today, you could feel a different way tomorrow. Emotions have no place in, any kind of debate. Like I said, I don't care how you feel. I can feel a certain way. Do my feelings not count as much as yours?
It's even worse when you assume, the feelings of someone else when in your argument. You assume their feelings. Well, it makes them feel this way instead of...
Right, and people don't like you to tell them how you feel. But as you might have, guessed from our intro about symbols and meanings and things, we're going to discuss symbology today. Now, symbols, the meanings they have are assigned by us. We decide what meaning symbols have, because essentially we're the ones who create them and use them. We create them for a purpose, and we use them for that purpose. What I've been seeing a lot, given the level of civil unrest in the country the last few weeks, or coming up on about a month now, aren't we?
It depends on which set of civil unrest you're discussing, but all of it together, we would say probably about a month.
It's a very fair point. Being in the South, one historical argument I can't seem to escape anymore is all the controversy, air quotes, around the state flag of Mississippi and its oppressive origins.
Air quotes again. Air quotes.
Now, before I delve into it, I don't want people to guess or speculate as to how I feel about it. I'm just going to come out and tell you point blank, I don't have strong feelings either way.
Right.
Because it's a flag.
It's a piece of cloth on a stick.
Right.
Or to quote Jeff Dunham or Jose, on a stick.
It's a flag. If it was to be changed, it would make no impact in the world. Me
and Kevin have no real dog in this fight because neither one of us are originally from Mississippi. So, right. I mean, we're speaking from the perspective of
outsiders.
People who appreciate history.
Right.
Is mostly our angle.
Now, for long-time listeners, you'll recall way back when we did do an episode that covered the history of the flag and its modern-day interpretation. And I felt like we did justice presenting our side of the argument. So I won't rehash that. So I thought today, for this episode, let's explore well-known symbols that have multiple meanings. And by multiple meanings, I mean they have different meanings to different people.
Or they have meanings that were hijacked and changed by other entities.
So one of the most notorious but recognizable symbols in the world is the swastika. And being a historian, I don't even like really saying that word because of the historic implications it has just on the surface. Now, for those of you who have, been living under a rock your entire life, during World War II, the Nazi Party adopted the swastika as their symbol.
Typically seen depicted on a red background with a black circle encompassing the swastika.
Right. And due to the horrific events of World War II, it has this mystique about it. It has this. It is representative of just oppression, death, destruction.
It is
chaos.
The modern symbol of evil.
Right. Now, many people would think that was just a symbol that was created up by maybe a PR guy or whatever. But it's actually a very old, a very ancient symbol that finds its origins in Buddhism. That's right. I said Buddhism.
Not Buddhism. Not what you study at the club on Friday night. Buddhism.
Anyway. The swastika in the Buddhist tradition in its most basic sense. And it varies according to different Buddhist groups. It represents the cycle of life, death, rebirth. Because in Buddhism, it's all about reincarnation.
Hey, be careful. That's too close to Circle of Life. Disney might come after us.
I hope not. We ain't got nothing to give.
Right.
But the symbol of the swastika is very widespread. There are archaeological digs that have uncovered the symbol in European cultures, Germanic. And as we all know, the Germans' approach was the Aryan race, the pure race. So they looked to ancient symbolism, or what they associated with their ancestors, and then chose the swastika. So here you have two very, very different views of the same symbol. What we've known the swastika to represent today as an oppressive and just cruel symbol of authoritarian power. And then the very less known interpretation of Buddhism of life in essentially the cycle of life.
There's actually samurai armor with the swastika. I'm not sure what name it had in Japanese or whatever, but on the forehead of the helmets and on the banner signs they would hold up and all kinds of stuff with the swastika on it. It could have had a extremely different connotation had the Nazis never touched it.
Right. Who knows? So the question you have to ask yourself is, which meaning does it represent? Is it the one about life, or is it the one about oppressive dictatorship? Because it means one thing to one group, something to another. Really no clear-cut answer there. It's whatever you decide it means to you. So we move on to another symbol that's very heavily associated with racial oppression. That's the white hood. Most people would hear that description, just the description alone, not actually see it, but hear it. That must be the KKK.
Yeah, it brings up images of burning crosses and racial oppression and blah, blah,
just
blah.
All kinds of negativity. And if anybody who had watched the Da Vinci Code knows, in the opening scene, it's depicted as actually being associated with a group of Spanish priests as far back as the Spanish Inquisition. For those of you who slept through history class, that's right about the time 1492. So about a good 500 years before the KKK comes around, give or take a few decades. Now the hoods the priests wear is actually done symbolically. There's that word again. They cover their face because during the Middle Ages they would march the streets and basically flatulate themselves for their sins.
Flatulate sounds like they're farting. Flogging themselves would be probably a more...
We'll go flogging then.
Understood term.
I agree. But they would hide their face, their shame. But they were repenting for their sins.
They're basically whipping themselves as they walked on the street.
Publicly. But now it's done during what's known as Holy Week, which is the week after Easter. And this is a group of priests that's not associated with racial oppression. But the first thought that comes to many people's minds when they white hood, KKK. Again, this has origins much later than what the modern day interpretation is. So which one do we look at? Is it a symbol of Christianity, or is it a symbol of racial oppression?
Now, we're not saying that there's any direct ties between the symbolism itself, like the KKK.
Right.
We don't know. We're not making that connection that they took that symbol and adopted it.
Playing along the same lines of European symbolism in early Germanic tribes, we have the vault nut. Is that
yeah, it's a vault nut. It's like three intertwined triangles.
Right. Now this is a relatively recent, I guess, hijacking. I guess we'll go over that word. This is
the SS did use it for a short period of time, but it's not one of their more prevalent symbols.
Right. It's a symbol that has ties to Norse and Norse mythology. And while the name itself is a modern day adaptation, it has been more or less hijacked by white supremacist groups as tying back to the pure Aryan race, if you will. Very similar to how the swastika was taken.
And also another hijacked one to go along with it from the same is the twin lightning bolts that the SS also used.
So you see these symbols being taken from much earlier periods of time and being reworked. But again, the question is, do we look at it for what it was created as, or what it's been more or less perverted into? Again, who's to say? And the third symbol I would like to discuss is the pentagram. Now, everyone, as soon as you hear that word, oh, that's the devil. That's devil worship. Early in human history, it wasn't representative of evil, but as protection from evil. It was used by many pagan groups to essentially protect you from evil spirits or just evil in general. And in Taoism, it was representative of elemental forces. And depending on various interpretations, a few different elements, but it was seen as a protection. It wasn't seen as evil. And modern interpretation is heavily influenced by pop culture. This influence has led to the modern perception that it was always a symbol of evil and Satanism, Satan himself. Now, while the pentagram is a 5-pointed star, for those of you who are unaware. The inverted one, where it has two sides pointing up, akin to a horn, is the one that is more or less associated with evil and corrupting the original symbol itself. So there is a difference with the inversion. Pop culture influences rarely mention that the pentagram is inverted. It's just a pentagram. Why they do that is, who can say? And this influence is what most people base their perception of the pentagram on. It's not on the academic or the historical knowledge. It's, I saw this in the movies. I saw this on TV. And it's the only interpretation they have, so it's the only one they can really base what the pentagram means to them. Now, while the pentagram is inverted to represent the opposite of protection from evil, that is rarely mentioned in pop culture, so it goes more or less undefined. So you lump it all together into one, the pentagram is evil. Now, very recently, there was a post on Facebook about this, which I thought was a great example of modern day symbolism and how it's seen today as opposed to what it was originally. And it really kind of highlights the point of so many people see it as this, but it started as something completely opposite.
My turn.
Enjoy.
I saw something. Probably it isn't recent, but it's more recent than other things that I found to be the stupidest thing that I'd ever seen in the witch hunt for racism. That's the only way I can describe this, because this is ridiculous. And many of you probably heard of it too, is the OK hand sign is now racist. And the old upside down OK sign that's the punch me game.
Right.
Or punch you game. I don't know. I don't remember it ever having a name, but we all understood that if you looked at it, people would hold it down to where you would normally look. And if you looked at it, you got punched in the arm. It was a game most of us adolescent boys played. Apparently, the OK hand signal and the inverse of that are now racist. Let me explain why. Apparently, 4chan, as a attempt to troll those that are gullible enough to believe that it is a white supremacist hand signal, were trolled. They were trolled.
Hard.
On 4chan. And they were dumb enough to fall for it. And because they fell for it, then eventually some white supremacists ended up using it to still poke at the bear.
Right.
But they ran with it. They absolutely ran with it. There were PSAs, all kinds of stuff. A guy was permanently banned from a baseball stadium because he did the inverse, the punch me thing behind a guy's head. Unfortunately for him, the announcer happened to be black. And then the Christchurch shooter ended up using it. And now forever, it's a white supremacist, racist hand signal. I've been saying okay for a long time like that.
Right.
And it's been in military, nonverbal communication for tactics and all kinds of stuff. And they were trolled. And they were so convinced that they were right, that it literally became that from a meme. Are you serious? So you're told to be outraged over an innocent OK answer. And you did it. And because of your idiocy, it is now and forever now going to be, is he being racist? Or is he signing OK? Or is he just trolling the fact that you think it's a racist hand sign?
Multiple interpretations.
Based on a joke. Wow. That one blew my mind.
I still can't fully grasp it myself. Just the events and circumstances that led to this. It's like a bad joke playing out in real life.
I could not wrap my head around how you could even go down that rabbit hole and not see that it was a joke. It was such a good joke that you bought it, hook, line, and sinker.
Fully committed to it.
Right. What was that Robert Downey Jr. line that we will not quote here? Tropic Thunder, you know which one I'm talking about. You never go full. Never go full.
You totally did.
Well, you definitely did.
They did. Oh, Lord.
But that just goes to show that don't just be outraged because you're told to be.
Think for yourself.
Think for yourself. Please. Look into stuff. Come on. Be reasonable, not for everyone else necessarily. Granted, it does help everybody else, but be reasonable for yourself.
Be an individual.
When you buy into stupidity, what does that make you? But, as always, we don't want you to take us as experts. We're just guys on a microphone. We want you to do your own research, form your own opinions, trust, but verify.